Hey, it's Pallavi Kashyap. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome everyone. In today's special episode, I have my dear friend Aaron Quinn, who's joining me all the way from Northern California, USA. A little bit about Aaron Quinn. Aaron is the founder of the Heart of Man experience, and he is a master life and business coach. He's also a successful entrepreneur, a veteran DJ producer, but most of all, he loves calling himself a devoted family man. In addition to building his personal coaching brand, Aaron also specializes in business development and scaling. Currently, he's a co-owner of a DUI prevention company where he manages the strategic planning and growth for his company. Since 2019, this company has annual revenue. He's also involved in project partnering, curating a cooperative team-based approach to project delivery on large residential and commercial projects. With over 25 years construction and project management experience, Aaron's approach to project delivery ties together the technical piece with the heart piece, making each project much more personal to all people involved. A little more about his personal life. Over the past 2 decades, he has been intrigued with personal growth and development. He has been on a journey of mastering himself using all available tools around, like workshops and seminars, reading countless books, and he's humble enough to say he's still discovering his true self through trial and errors. The vision to have a strong family unit with deep-rooted connections has kept his personal development a mainstay throughout his adult life. And when Aaron isn't coaching, he can be found with his family, cooking, or involved in music one way or the other. Without taking much further time, I want to welcome Aaron to my Energized Lifestyle podcast show. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Pallavi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great this morning. I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to be part of your podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, well, when I was talking to you and the content that you put out through your social media, I was very much interested because you put out your content with so much of heart, with so much of and belief in what you put out. One of the topics that I wanted to discuss was divorce. You quite mentioned that a lot. And I wanted to understand your life, if you're okay with it, your life,
Absolutely.
how it had been through all the ups and downs you had, and centering around divorce, how you healed yourself, how it led to your growth as an individual, as a human being, and how your growth has, it impacts the people around you, how it has impacted your family. So why don't you tell us something on maybe starting from your childhood or whatever piece of your life you want to pick up?
Yeah, so a little bit about first of all, thank you for the intro. Secondly, a little bit about my childhood. I'm 45 right now, and I'm currently in a blended family. So we have 2 children from previous marriages, but going back to my early childhood, I was in a single mother household, single parent household. My mom was schizophrenic. She had a lot of mental issues, a lot of physical disabilities. And my dad really wasn't in the picture too much. And as I grew older, her sickness got worse. So it was very challenging for me. And I was pretty much forced to grow up about a decade ahead of everybody else, a decade ahead of all my peers. I was constantly worried about her, handling prescriptions. Sometimes I'd help her shopping, things of that nature. So growing up with a parent with disabilities really puts that forefront, and that I have to take action, and I have to be responsible for a lot of things. So that really shaped a lot of the things that I've experienced throughout my young adolescent years and my adult life. And then fast forward to my first marriage, coming from a broken home, I realized, like looking back, I realized that I didn't have the structured nuclear family to model from, you know what I mean? And I really struggled with masculinity. I struggled with understanding what it takes to be a man. And through my first marriage, there was just a lot of things that weren't in alignment with my true morals and values. In addition to, I didn't really know how to show up for my ex-wife. And through marriage and divorce, you can spend a lot of time pointing fingers and getting angry at the other person. But we have two children, and what's it costing us? Being angry and bitter and just showing disdain for your ex-wife is not moving the needle forward. It's not cultivating any type of love and gratitude and compassion for the people that are watching you. And so like when I was my first marriage, there was just a lot of things that I struggled with. I struggled things from her end, and I'm realizing the things that I struggled on my end. But once we got divorced, the relationship I have now with my ex-wife is 10 times better than what it was back then. We've been divorced for probably 8 years now, going on 8 years. And I've been remarried for a few years. And the amount of effort it took to get to this point was all a direct reflection of the amount of intentional healing that I did. And that is taking accountability, taking full responsibility of everything in my life. And what that started off with was how I got through the divorce. And what that looks like is I had to show up differently. I had to be the example, even though my ex-wife was angry, bitter, upset. Obviously, I decided to pull the trigger on the divorce. So from her end, it blindsided her. But during one of our discussions, I said, "You're going to thank me later for this," because I just deep down inside, I knew that we weren't in alignment. And it's not fair. It's not fair to be with someone if I can't be that person for them and they aren't that person for me. If you truly know, because the marriage I'm in now, my wife and I are so deeply connected on a whole different level than how I was with my ex-wife. And so I understand the difference between like true love and then getting married to fill a void, or just to go through the motions of, like, you grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, just the American way, so to speak. And that system just really blinded me because I was so full of shame and embarrassment from my upbringing that I was missing that nuclear family experience. So I rushed into that, and part of that was me settling and not taking a stand for what I wanted, what I truly needed and wanted out of life. I was feeling a void, and for that, I overlooked some of the things that I should not have overlooked when finding a partner and getting into a relationship, getting into a marriage, and ultimately being parents. So I had to do a lot of growing up. And with my current wife, we are so focused on expressing love and being love and bringing up our children in a way in which we do not promote any type of anger or disdain for our exes. We have created an environment where we are now fully blended and we're in communication with our exes. Some divorces are just so nasty that you can't see each other, right? You want to park down the street, or you just can't talk to people at school events or sporting events. But all of our kids were very active in all of their lives, and we see everybody at sports events, at school events, and we're very big advocates for just showing love and showing the kids that we can all coexist together, and that their mom and their dad, respectively, on each side, are very important to my wife and I, because they are part of the development and the health and the safety of our children. So if we show our children love and gratitude towards their other parent that's not with us in the house, that's only going to propel them further, because the experiences I had where my dad didn't come to the front door, he didn't show up there. You know what I mean? I had to walk down the street to get into his car, and I could tell in my family there was some animosity, you know what I mean, between my mom and my dad, and I never knew any of the details, but just that energy, right? So there was some embarrassment and some shame, some abandonment issues that developed because of that, and being aware of that makes me really take full accountability of how I'm blending my family now with my wife, because we're just so adamant at leading with love and making sure that we're doing the best we can, showing up the best we can for our children, so that we're not handing down the trauma. You know what I mean? We want to break those experiences from our past and not have our children be victims of the decisions that we made. With the blended family, we did obviously have a little bit of time to get blended. It wasn't overnight. I would say now, 7-8 years later, we're rocking and rolling. We're a great unit. It took a few years to get the personalities meshed, to get the feeling of the family for the children, because my children were younger, like I want to say like 6 and 4, maybe a little bit younger than that. And my wife's children were like 12 and 5, 12 and 6. So there's a big gap between her two children's age. Mine were a little bit more in alignment with the years in between. But every child has their own personality, and with the love and admiration my wife and I have for each other, we under anticipated the length of time it took for the children to blend, and for the children to accept, and for the children to see the true value of our union. And it wasn't until a couple years ago where I just started becoming more present to meeting our children where they're at, and having conversations with them, and really being intentional on seeing their growth, acknowledging their growth, and helping them where they're falling, instead of saying, hey, why don't you do this? You need to do this, or you need to feel this way. You know, we really took ownership of allowing them to develop on their own, and kind of see where they're struggling at.
I just wanted to pick up from one of the quotes that you already said, having a blended family now, and during your childhood, you didn't see a nuclear family. Your father was not there. Your mom was ailing. So because that kind of setup, and then you wanted to fill in something, and which is why you got married. And that experience which you had during your childhood, one of your parents missing, how does that impact when you're in a relationship? I mean, I've read and I've heard people trying to fit in or fill in, what was missing in your childhood in your current relationship or the relationship you're in. I want you to add on to how probably your childhood and the relationship you had with your parents, how that reflects in your current relationship or the relationship you were in previously. How did that impact?
The largest thing that has impacted me is, like, nobody taught me how to be a man.
Okay.
So I had to learn that. I had to be intentional, because I struggled with so many things throughout my early adult life, in college and post college. Even, I'm still developing myself. There's no mountaintop, right? So I'm not trying to aim for perfection. I'm just becoming more aware of how I am, how I show up, and how things affect me. And the largest thing, like I said, is my dad didn't teach me how to be a man. He didn't teach me how to be thoughtful for a woman, how to anticipate her feelings and emotions, and how to comfort her in times of need. So what that looked like for me in adult life is getting defensive, taking things personally, having my ego, be stronger than the need for finding alignment versus winning. I wanted to win the fight, and that's toxic. That's just not the way a man needs to be in a relationship. That's not the way we want to live our family life right now. And I've been so intentional on my personal journey the last couple decades. Even through my first marriage, I was very aware of my shortfalls, and I got into personal development I think about a year or two before my first marriage, but it didn't really start sinking in until the divorce. Everything shifted for me at the divorce, because that's when I realized that I'm in control of everything, and I have the obligation and duty to be my best for my children, to
Right.
not live for myself, to be of service for them first and foremost. And then now it's with my wife
Mm.
and my two other children that I've lovingly inherited. You know what I mean? So now we have four children together,
Mm.
and I am hyper focused and aware of who I am, how I show up, and the things that have impacted me over time. And like I said, there's no mountaintop, and it's constant improvement, and you just get better over time, and you get more confident. And then so the the trauma reactions, they taper down over time because you're getting that much stronger and you're developing your muscle, your resilience muscle.
Mm.
And um, that was the largest experience for me of just like learning how to be a man, finding mentors, finding a community of other like-minded men who struggle,
Right.
and really understanding the power of self-mastery and self-talk. And those things I just did not learn growing up, and I didn't learn to give. I was so stuck on survival, and why, not necessarily why me, but definitely went through the fucking storm, always having to be responsible. We grew up really, really poor too. So a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shame, a lot of like, not guilt, but like, a lot of like, why am I going through this? You know what I mean? And the more I've looked back at my experiences, the more I've realized that there's a purpose for me now, because the things that I've gone through now are not as hard as the stuff I went through as a child. And when I can connect my growth through those past experiences, I can use my past experiences as strength to help other men find their purpose, find their greatness for their families. Because I just had to do that. I didn't have any other choice with my two children, and I really had to take a stand for who I was. And I had to be the father that I didn't have, even though I didn't know how to be the father I didn't have.
Yeah.
I had to take ownership of that. I said, I don't want to be a fucking deadbeat divorced dad.
Mm.
I'm going to be involved. I'm going to show my ex-wife love, and I'm going to just be an embodiment, a role model for my children. And now fast forward 8 years, I'm still on my journey, but I'm way better now than I was 8 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's just really important for us to see how our past experiences impact the way we show up in everyday life, especially men, because we are the providers and we are the protectors, and we are the leaders of the families.
Since we were talking about divorces, your divorce was a kind of a situation from your childhood that, built on this, and then you finally had to see this episode. But in general, if I'm sure you're helping other men, who are going through a similar situation. So in your analysis, not as per statistics, I don't want statistics, but as per your analysis, what are the reasons that, lead to divorces?
Um, Communication and expectations, and specifically, if I can only speak from a man's standpoint. Okay.
Okay.
Not understanding how important vulnerability and authenticity is with your wife, and really having undiscussed expectations of the other person
Mm.
is a huge hurdle to get through.
Mm.
And specifically, if you are expecting one thing and they do another thing, then you're going to start building resentment, and you're not communicating that feeling. But then if you don't know how to communicate, if you don't know how to be vulnerable, then that resentment turns into anger, right? And then it goes down the road. Then it can permeate into your self-talk. They're not answering me. They don't love me. And then it just adds on to all the self-talk that you had as a child growing up, at least from my perspective. So you just get into this vicious cycle. And until you take ownership of everything, you're not going to really see that. And it's really unfair. It costs a lot of peace, a lot of peace of mind. And it's just not fair for yourself or your partner to not do the work and not be present for them. But yeah, I would say communication and expectations are huge. A lot of people say finances, but finances are part of the communication, are part of the expectations. It really boils down on how much effort you put into the marriage. And, they say 50-50, but really marriage is 100-100. Why wouldn't you want to be 100% for your spouse?
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I was playing victim. I was like, fuck it. It's like, I felt like I just was on defense so much. I didn't know my role in that at the time. And it becomes a point to where if you're living blindly and you're just settling and you're not speaking your truth, you're allowing the things that you don't say, that's still saying something. You are allowing things and enabling things to happen without dictating the outcome. And if you just allow that to happen, things get worse. Your communication gets worse. You start withdrawing, you start becoming internalized, and it creates more problems. And you're gonna, especially if you have kids, if you're not handling that type of stuff, it permeates down to the children, and maybe they have problems at school. Maybe they're fighting. Maybe there's a whole other things. There could be mental illness. There could be other sicknesses that happen because of the energy that you're putting into the relationship.
Aaron, we'll talk a bit about personal growth and development. You said, towards the last few years of your previous marriage, you started working on yourself. What was the trigger point, or what made you work on yourself to save the marriage or to make things work? So what was that trigger point, or what pushed you? I'm asking this question so that for listeners in my podcast, whoever is there at that stage, and either if it's possible to save the marriage, what advice would you give, and what was that trigger point that made you look for answers through personal growth and development?
Yeah, for me, my first marriage, it at the end of the day, we just weren't in alignment. So I know that I got married for the wrong reasons on my end. I did it from a trauma response, not a love response. So the way my wife and I are now, we talk through everything and we get through it all. It's a different level of fighting. So I can't speak from the latter perspective, but I will speak to when you get yourself into a position where you're not authentic and you live your true self, you're going to have a harder time getting to that point, because I sacrificed a lot of who I was. I compromised a lot of who I was with my first marriage because I was feeling a traumatic response void, right? I was feeling that void because I didn't have something when I was a child growing up, and I wanted it. So I was overlooking connection issues, overlooking intimacy issues, overlooking communication issues, just to be married and have children. And that's just the wrong way to get married. That's a wrong thing to do. So the best thing anybody can do is learn to speak their truth. If you're going through something and you're not okay with it, you need to speak up, because when you don't speak up, you are accepting what is. And like I said a few moments ago, if you do that over and over and over, then over time, you've got all this resentment, all this anger, all this shame, all this depression, anxiety built up. It comes out how you show up. It comes out with arguments. It comes out with shortness. It comes out with disrespect. It comes out in infidelity. It comes out with a whole bunch of different ways. Alcoholism, like drug abuse. There's a lot of cause and effect things that happen when you're out of alignment with yourself. But there's also a lot of cause and effect things that happen when you are in alignment with yourself. And when you find your true self, as I have, and I am currently doing with personal development, everything around you gets better, and you become more aware of your impact with your family and your community and your business. And the best thing I could have ever done is just take a stand for myself, and not necessarily against my ex, just overall in life in general.
Mm.
I like the quote of like, when you'll change when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. So I got to that point. I got to that point to where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. It wasn't a marriage I wanted. We weren't financially set where we were, and I was constantly in a space where I was on survival mode, and I didn't have the space, not only for myself but from my ex to get to a point where I can develop myself and lead the family. Like I said, I was having a hard time because nobody ever taught me to be a man. So obviously that was a large factor in it as well. But I had to pull the trigger, pull the ripcord, and make a stand for myself. And since that point in time, I've gotten into so many different things. I've met my wife, and we're now in a loving, great marriage. My business is thriving. My career took off, and and when you shift into that space, you now create more space to keep developing. But it's intentional. It's decisiveness. I decided at that time, no, I'm going to learn everything I can. So I started reading a lot more books. I started going to seminars, and now I'm my mentors nowadays, instead of like the larger seminar type gurus, so to speak, I'm finding specialized mentors and coaches. I've hired coaches over the last probably 5, 6 years. I have a business coach. I have a life coach. Mentors need mentorship as well. So I'm constantly developing myself, but I'm leaning into people that are living the life that I want to live. I'm not just taking advice from people that haven't walked the walk, that don't know the experience. They read something over here and then they go teach it over there. I don't want that. I want to get mentorship from a man who has had marital issues, who has possibly had a divorce, who is fit, who is a multimillionaire in business, scaling their companies, and who's got a great family. And those are the types of guys that I'm really leaning into and listening to their content. And I'm getting coached by a couple people right now that are pretty well known. But it takes an investment in yourself to make any type of change with your family or your job or your business. It takes intentional work, and you have to face your shadow. You have to get into the darkness, and where you get into the darkness is being vulnerable. And that is where all the magic happens. And being able to take that on the chin and being able to really explore why you do things, when you do things, and how it impacts others, that's when you start really growing and escalating your development.
One thing I noted from your story, Aaron, is you didn't rush for the next relationship. You worked on yourself, you developed yourself, you worked on your weaknesses. What I've also observed is, I don't know how is it in your country. Here in India, it's like being divorced is like you kept talking about mentioning the word guilt, shame, and all of that. So that comes along with divorce. What you did in your journey, what I've observed is you worked on yourself, because what if you have not worked on yourself, whatever mistakes or whatever shortfalls were there in the previous relationship would for sure have reflected in your current relationship. But you worked on yourself, and you tried to mend and repair all those things and look at those places where most people would not. So you worked on those things and you developed yourself, and then went for a relationship, which is why it is now, in that beautiful state that you mentioned you are in. And of course, one relationship also impacts the other relationships. Like your business is growing now because your relationship, your family relationship is going strong. So it is reflecting in all the other spheres of your life. So what I was trying to say is that people do not realize that jumping into a marriage and getting a new partner is going to fix what did not work out in the previous relationship. But what you explained is, you worked on yourself, which is probably you can just add a few more lines on, how important it is to work on yourself to ensure that the next relationship you are getting into is the one.
Sure. And so what happened with me right after my divorce, I did meet my wife shortly after. So there wasn't too much of a space, but what was different was my mindset. Like I said, the pain of change was less than the pain of staying the same. So when that at that point, my whole mindset shifted. I took ownership of everything. When my wife and I started dating, um, I basically told her, I'm like, hey, I do this. I'm into this. Like, I'm not fucking changing. Like, I was just like on a whole nother level, and like she just really accepted me for who I am. And, you know, there are still things that pop up now that I thought were healed. But the thing is, like, my relationship with my wife is so pure and so intentional because of my mindset shift that the things that I'm struggling with or that she's struggling with are the communication's way better, and we get through it together as a team. There's partnership versus survival mode. So those two environments are way different. But I got to this environment now with my wife because I took a stand for myself. I made a decision to I made a decision to know what to accept and what not to accept and how I want to create my life. And because I was living my truth, the universe responded very quickly to me. And it continued to respond quickly to both my wife and I, and we've been thriving. Even through COVID, we thrived. We
Perfect.
you know we had such a positive outlook on everything. Yeah, it was a very stressful time and high anxiety. All the kids have been, doing their schoolwork on the dining table, and there's a lot of things that we had to go through. We experienced a death in the family too, and while we're blending, and there's just a whole bunch of things that her and I both experienced in our marriage that, had I not been intentional on healing myself and being authentic and vulnerable, my past traumas would have shown up, and we probably wouldn't have made it this far. But we fought. Like I said, there's a different mindset, and her and I, we are very attracted to being authentic with each other and being connected so deeply on an intimate level that we can see each other's soul way deeper than any other relationship I've ever had. And having that type of connection really does help foster a growth environment, and it makes you want to get better. So I'm constantly looking how to improve myself, so I approach our conflicts a lot differently than I did in my previous marriage because I've healed myself. But I'm also taking more ownership of how I'm showing up, and understanding what it takes to be a man, because I've been coached. I've done the classes, I've read the books, but I've done the shadow work. And I know that, how I respond to something or what I say or anything like that could be stemmed from a traumatic response. And just having that mindset is really what has gotten us to this point for both of us.
Talking about your healing journey, you've mentioned that you've been reading a lot of books, attending a lot of web workshops, seminars. You have coaches, but I'm sure you would have also, since I'm from the healing background, I take a lot of interest in energy healing, and my forte and my passion is pranic healing, so which I do. So from the healing point of view, beyond and additional to these tools that you've mentioned, have you tried any other tools that helped you to move out or come out of your zone?
Yeah, I would say outside. So obviously, when you listen to something, you get inspired, but it doesn't change until you take action, right? So you can go to all the seminars you want, you can read all the books you want, but until you apply the concepts, it's in one ear and out the other. So just really taking action, being a man of action is what I've dedicated myself to. When I do read, I like to read the book slowly so that I absorb it and I can apply it. In addition, really been focusing on my mental and physical health, both, because physical fitness is the gateway to success. And this is what I'm currently learning the last, like, I would say last year or so. I've really been shifting my focus on physical fitness, because I got overweight, and being overweight, it impacted my coping mechanisms. It impacted my energy levels. I was falling asleep on the couch with the kids, and I only have the kids half the time. So it really was trickling into everything that I was doing. So I just shifted some of my focus to physical fitness. And what I've learned through that journey, and still learning through the journey, is how important it is for your mindset, your clarity, your vision. Because the better fit you are physically and mentally as a man, the more you can take on, and the more things don't bother you, and the further you can catapult forward. Because the stronger you are, the bigger problems, and I say problems lightly, but the bigger problems you have to solve. Right. So my life is getting bigger, grander with respect to responsibilities and things that are opening up for us. We've got some things down the pipeline that my wife and I are currently interested in and working towards. And those wouldn't have happened if I wasn't clear-minded, if I continued to stay overweight. You know what I mean? I'm still working on getting even in better shape than I was, 3 months ago, that I was 6 months ago, that I was a year ago. And
Right.
each incremental phase of this fitness journey has opened up so much more with my relationship, with my children, with my business, and our finances. Because you're making better decisions, you're clearer, you can talk more. If you don't have energy, if you're tired and sluggish, how are you going to be able to handle big things? How are you going to have tough conversations? And what I realized too is if you're not in shape, that's a sign of your body is your resume, right? And it's a sign of how much you love each other. So I got to a point to where, like, my mindset is so far out there, but my body was behind. So it was time for me to really focus on being a direct reflection of my mindset. So that's when I went to work on physical fitness, and it's a sign of self-respect. So one of my mentors, he basically said, if two men came up to me and they had the same offer to me, and one was 40 pounds overweight and one was shredded from the gym, I would take the guy from the gym, because it shows focus, it shows discipline, it shows self-love and self-respect. And when I heard that made sense to me. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear from someone that doesn't respect themselves. So once I took that on, then a whole bunch of other stuff started opening up. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And I'm just on the self-love kick right now. And it's really important to make sure that physical fitness and mental fitness, reading, yoga, but also like meditation, but also working out, for men, like lifting weights, it's a great way to just relieve your stress, to get all of that internal angst outside, dissipated, so that you're not festering it. You're not holding it in. And like a lot of the times for men, we go inward. But like when I go work out and I'm upset, or if I've got some shit that's rolling into the family, and I go work out, I feel a million times better. I get it out, and I can then talk about it in an unemotional, more logical sentiment, versus if I just allow my emotions to take control over me. That's not self-love. That's not self-respect. I'm appearing weak to my wife. How can she trust me to take on to serve her and protect her if I can't even be my best for myself? How can I be my best for her or the kids? So you really have to be understanding of how your body and how your physical fitness impact the way your wife sees you, the way your children depend on you. It's really critically important.
So for listeners, healing is not just at the physical level. but at the mental level as well as the emotional level. And when healing your body, uh, it is not just about fitness, but when you are fit, it shows, it gives you that extra confidence. Aaron, you'd been talking so much about being a man. You have explained in bits and pieces, but showing up as a man, being a man in the relationship, tell me, what are the attributes, qualities of a man actually is, or what we see and what we know, or what is being portrayed in the movies, is what we know as.
Yeah.
If it's a man, he has to be macho, and that's the thing that we know about a man. That is again his physical attribute. Tell me from the mental aspects, tell me from the emotional aspect, how should a man be?
So yeah, there's being a good man and there's being manly. You know what I mean? You can have all the tactical virtues of, courage, strength, mastery.
That is needed.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's the muscular standpoint of being able to protect and provide. Absolutely. But there's also the emotional fortitude standpoint of having humility, having compassion, having the strength to take adversity head on, and being strong and protecting your family. And
so are you talking the masculine and feminine features, or all of these together are
I mean, there are some feminine features, but from a masculine standpoint is being a space of vulnerability and authenticity so that you hold space for others. Serving others is kind of like what that's related to. Not getting defensive and being emotionally resilient and mastering yourself emotionally so that you can take on and be the space for your family to get through whatever they're getting through. So that's what I meant by taking 100% responsibility for your life. And how I look at my marriage, my family is if my kids are struggling in something, or if my wife is struggling in something, I take that to heart. I take ownership and responsibility. Not that it's my fault, but I take the responsibility of being the space for them to get through it. And that takes humility. That takes getting your ego out of the way. That takes you not getting angry when they're experiencing something. That's something I had to learn, not get defensive over shit like that. And allowing other people to feel their emotions and be themselves is a great masculine strength, is being a space for people to feel comfortable and safe and loved and protected. And that's the soft side of masculinity, right? Is holding space for other people, serving other people, and helping other people find their greatness. The physical side is obviously the strength and the fortitude and being able to go to battle every day. But the soft skills from that are definitely humility, compassion, gratitude, love, fellowship, leadership, and helping other people find their greatness.
These last attributes that you spoke about is not much talked about. It's not
right.
How they
not portrayed.
Yeah. And since you have talked about blended families, tell us, how did that happen, and how are you looking forward to that's a part of your life now? How are you taking that approach?
Oh yeah, like with a blended family, it's not about me, right? I've got 2 children from a previous marriage, and I get 2 new sons, so I have 4 children. So loving my wife's children as my own was really important to me. Not treating children that aren't your blood differently. It's so important that everybody is integrated and thought of and treated the same. And that was really important to me, because growing up, my dad was not around too much, but when I did go see him, he was already married with another family. Right. And my stepmom treated me like shit. She just did. She treated me unfairly, and she was rude to me. And so that stuck with me. And so I said, man, if I'm in another blended family, I am making sure that I love these children. And I do, and what that does is just opens up so many opportunities to receive and give love
Mm.
And what does that do for my blood children? That shows them how to give and receive love from people that aren't their blood. It
Mm.
shows them compassion and love and gratitude. And it's just the more love you can give,
Mm.
the better the lessons and the better life you have. It's just so many great opportunities, and we just carry that on every day in our blended family. And we really have a good flow now. All the kids are coming in their own little personalities, and
Mm.
each kid is doing what they want to do. We have a 19-year-old son who just graduated high school. He's finding his way and doing what he loves. And the three younger children are one's approaching high school, and the other two are sixth and seventh grade, and we're going, they're all in sports, and everybody's finding their own little strengths. And it's such a beautiful experience seeing everybody shine. But it took some time to get through the divorce on both sides. It took some time for my wife and I to develop ourselves and for it to trickle down into the children. And we really just had to continue staying, being present with the children and focusing on what serves them, what serves our family, and making decisions based on that. What's on the plus column, what's on the minus column.
Mm. Aaron, I wanted to read out something that you had mentioned, how martial arts made up for an absent father. So, I mean, did you take martial arts as a space to vent out or your anger or,
Yeah,
to.
I was in martial arts pretty consistently ever since like probably like 7 or 8 through high school. I dabbled in some martial arts post college and even some during college. But what I learned in martial arts through my young life, especially with no father figure,
Mm.
it really helped me with just knowing that I have to be my word, having integrity, and fighting through things, persevering through adversity. And it really helps specifically with my sick mom.
Mm.
She was in and out of the mental hospital, and that was a really huge um, thing for me. It was hard for me to get through as a young child. I didn't have my dad to reach out to, and I didn't have my dad to comfort me, because when I did go to my dad's house, he would not really pay attention to me. He would go work in his car in the garage. So he didn't spend time with me, quality time. So I really lacked that. So martial arts really helped me learn about adversity, perseverance,
Mm.
and just getting through things. And that's why I felt like um, I had 10 years of growth before my other peers, because I always felt more responsible. I always felt like I didn't get time to be a kid. Like I was an
Mm.
adult pretty much going through fifth, sixth grade and beyond. And it's a lot of the way I handled all of that stuff. I was still at a mindset of a child, but I still had the discipline. I still had the self-talk and the positive self-talk to get me through it. I just knew, like, yeah, of course, I wondered, why am I going through this? But I knew there was a better life out there,
Absolutely.
and I just didn't know when it was going to happen. But yeah, martial arts really helped just like understand, integrity
Mm.
and just getting through adversity.
Perfect. Uh, you talk a lot about reading a lot of books. So, if I have to ask you the best three books or the top three books that could guide people who are going through stages in their life, their relationships are falling off. So, what
Yeah.
books could you suggest for them to hold the pieces together?
Yeah, I would say Men's Work
Mm-hmm.
by, I think it's Connor Brannon, um, The Way of the Superior Man by Dan Dieta, and
Mm.
Man Up by Bedros Keuilian.
Okay. Okay. So, in your coaching space, so what kind of target audience do you have?
Most of my audience are fathers, family-centered businessmen who just want to connect deeper with their families and their wives. They're the providers. They're scaling businesses, just such as myself, and the harder they work, the more disconnected they feel with their wife and kids. And a lot of my clients and I talk about just ways to be vulnerable. How are we showing up? What can we do for our family and our wives? And what do we have to work on with respect to shadow work so that we can fulfill a better life for our families? So those are the people that I work with, and those are the types of men that I talk to on a frequent basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. Since you can provide some from your experience, you can help them, all these people who are reaching out to you. Perfect. You talk about vulnerability and being authentic in a relationship. Can you give me an example for both these? How you're being vulnerable in your relationship.
Yeah. So being authentic, like I said, speaking your truth, living and being who you are, right? But and vulnerability is also that plus holding space for other people, serving other people, and having enough humility to guide people without judgment and seeing people for who they are, but also sharing your heart, because sharing your heart from a strength standpoint and sharing your heart in a humility standpoint, it opens up so much more for other people. Because if you're just walking through a room very closed off, dark energy, you're not open, you're not going to attract people. But if you're loving and you're compassionate and you're about other people, you're going to attract so many wonderful people in your life, and you're going to learn a lot. And being vulnerable really enables you to see people from a heart level versus, a transactional level. So it's really important to speak our truth. It's really important to live authentically with integrity, being our word, and also seeing people where they're at and holding space for them to be their greatness, to be their own greatness.
Nice. So I have this question which I normally ask, but that pertains to business. For you, probably I can ask from the personal front. One good practice that you do every day.
One good practice that I do every day is send out gratitude texts.
Oh, wow.
So I just, when I wake up, there's a couple groups I'm part of. I jump right in and I just send out gratitude. I text friends, family, business people, hey, thanks for the business. Appreciate you. Or, if it's a friend, I really appreciate your friendship. Thank you for being in my life. Like, very simple, but it makes a big difference, because expressing gratitude first thing in the morning is something new that I learned. I've always expressed gratitude, but doing it first thing in the morning really helps set the tone for your day, because you're starting your day off with a positive mindset. So that would be one thing. Another thing would be to wake up early. I started waking up early a couple months ago, and I'm 80% of the time I'm up by 3:30, 4 o'clock at the gym by 4:15. And
in the morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
the gym's open so early?
At 4, yeah.
Wow.
So what it does is it affords me the time to decompress all my thoughts, instead of waking up at the alarm, going to get the kids up, getting ready for school, cooking breakfast, packing lunches. Like, that's such a hustle and bustle that your brain is still sleeping. Your brain doesn't have time to decompress and to gather its thoughts. So I love working out in the mornings, because when I get home, I've got another hour and a half to 2 hours before anybody wakes up. So I can read, I can make some coffee, and I could just sit there with my thoughts and process things before I go wake up the kids. And it's proven to be a huge part of my morning routine. And I'm so grateful that, like, I learned how to do that, because like my bio, like, I've been in the music industry for over 2 decades, throwing events and being in the music scene. So that's the nightlife, right? So balancing nightlife with early morning stuff, I had to take some I had to make some changes, right? And really understand what's important to me right now. And right now, what's important to me is waking up early, getting good sleep, and expressing gratitude first thing in the morning.
And what time do you go to bed?
About 9:30 or 10. So
Uh,
anywhere between 5 and 6 hours is where I'm averaging in sleep. Sometimes 7.
Nice. I also have this question that I ask all my guests, because what success means to you, and every guest I've had have had a different definition and explanation, the way they understand and explain it. So from your point of view, could be need not be very success very business oriented. How do you treat success in your life?
Um, that's a good question. And success to me isn't just financial.
Yeah.
What success means to me is taking on every day with the intention that you're going to be your best
Hmm.
and you're going to constantly strive to improve. Because when you do that,
Hmm.
when you focus inwardly, everything outward in your external life changes. The better you are inside, if you change the roots, you change the fruits. So success to me is just constantly working on myself and
Hmm.
constantly improving so that I can give more to others, so that I
Hmm.
can be more for others, so I
Hmm.
can lead others,
True.
so I can share space with others.
Hmm.
That was such a foreign concept to me growing up because like I said, I was stuck on survival mode. But
Right.
the more I pour into myself, the easier and more I can pour into others, into my children, into my wife, and it gets easier and easier and easier. But then you just do more work. You just keep pouring into yourself, and everything else shifts. Your finances shift, your relationships shift, your mental fortitude improves, your physical prowess improves, the way you show up, the way you tackle everything in life is so much better. And your input in all of those variables are so much stronger because you're stronger in your head and you're stronger physically in how you show up and how you take that on. So that to me is the definition of success.
Perfect. And what I also understood from your story is that you wear different hats. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a coach, you're a businessman. But from all these roles that you play, if I have to ask you to pick up one, as your favorite, what would that favorite be?
Oh man, it'd definitely be being a father.
Okay, not even the
Being a
husband.
father, yeah, it's one. Oh, and a husband, yeah. But that's she's my partner, right? So that's I don't look at it as like we're in this together, and like
Okay,
her and I, like just being parents.
okay.
It's just one of the greatest gifts, and getting to a point where we developed ourselves and we're developing ourselves and developing each other. It we seeing it reflect down and trickle down to the children is so rewarding. And I've learned so much in being a father that it's just one of the most rewarding experiences of life. And I'm just so grateful that I have this opportunity to be in my kids' lives.
Good. Interesting. So, Aaron, we've been talking about your coaching programs and your business. Tell us what important, interesting projects you're working on and what my viewers, listeners should look up to.
Yeah, for sure. So I just started a free men's group Telegram channel, and it's called the Heart of Man Experience. And I've been doing that for a few months now,
Mm-hmm.
and just building that right now, and then going to be moving into a podcast here in the next, I would say, the next quarter or so. So I'm working out some details and getting that all lined out and outlined, and that's something that's been on my radar for about 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
but it hasn't quite clicked yet. That's because I'm focused on other things, and now it's getting close to that time to execute. So that's something that's down the pipeline in the near future. In addition to my men's group as well, and I'm just gonna continuously post content when I put it out there and just speak with my heart.
Do share those links. I'll have them in the description. Maybe people can reach out to you. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And before I leave you, my last question, what kind of legacy you want to leave behind?
Oh man, and I'm even wearing the shirt. Leave your legacy.
Oh, wow.
So I would say just a legacy of being your word and being your best.
Hmm.
I want my kids to know that I poured everything I could into them because I showed up my best.
Perfect.
I didn't allow my past traumas to impact their life. I want my legacy to be that I was a man of my word, and you have to live with integrity, humility, compassion, love, and gratitude.
Awesome. That was like, the best statement for the day. And before I leave you, I wanted to check which platforms are you most active? Where can my viewers reach you at?
Yeah, you can reach me at Aaron Quinn Official on Instagram. That's my primary platform right now. Obviously, once I start my podcasting, I'll be on Spotify and YouTube. I do have a Facebook page, but I'm predominantly on Instagram at Aaron Quinn Official.
People can DM you.
Yes, yeah. So direct DM me if you're interested in joining my men's group. Shoot me a message, and I'll send you the link to sign up. It's free, and there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
Perfect. And yeah, before I leave you, is there any question that I should have asked and I missed out asking? And, probably that answer could lift somebody's life or change somebody's life. If there's
No,
anything.
no outstanding question that I can think of. I thought the conversation was great. I really do appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to be part of your podcast. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing your heart with my audience, sharing the truth about your life, sharing all those aspects that uh, I know people would want to hide, but you had been very transparent. You had been very honest in sharing your life experience, and this courage would for sure help. We're not talking about moving hundreds of people. Even if one person, it makes a difference in the life of
Yeah.
one person. That's why we are doing this. So with utmost gratitude and with all my heart, I want to thank you once again for giving us this time, sharing all your life experiences with my audience. And before we find another episode or another topic to connect with, here's once again saying a thank you until we meet again. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much.